Hello, everybody. It's your friend Moonhorse here, and I have a very special story that I'm going to read to you guys. Um, it also involves Sango a little bit, but she's not feeling so well. But I really wanted to share this story because it's kind of important, and the comments are important too. So we're going to go through the whole thing, but this may take a little bit. This may be a longer one. So, this is a post from our friend River, and I'm so happy that you did. Full disclosure, I actually did kind of read through this before. I'm reading it now. So, Sango's waving. Okay, so here we go. All of this started when I was on break from school in my little hometown, spending some time with my parents. I was watching some YouTube videos while doing tasks around the house when I came across this channel. It had come up in my recommendeds list after a few friends had sent me videos where someone read other people's stories of nice guys and neckbeards and horrible fanfiction. The channel in question read a lot of funny content, and listening to him read felt like I was listening to a close friend. Little did I know, I actually would be. At the end of each video, he would talk about how we could submit stories and how we could reach out. I have a Reddit account, and I had a story that had been weighing on me. I never fully opened up about it, but my anxiety got the better of me when I typed a part of it up to submit. The story was about a roommate I had in college. She turned out to be an incredibly toxic person, and she dropped out of university after becoming pregnant with her little boy. That was when I decided that the best thing to do was to send a quick message to the channel creator, and as soon as I sent it, I felt like I'd made a mistake. There was no way that someone like him would have the time to listen to any concern I had. If he did answer me, it would be weeks, maybe months later. I told him, basically and briefly, that I had a story, and I asked if it would be any trouble if I sent it to him directly. The last thing I expected was for him to answer so quickly. I believe it was all within a couple of hours, and he said it was fine, and that I could send him anything that I had to say. While it was difficult for me to get the story out, I managed. If I remember properly, it was only a matter of days before I saw the story in a video. Let me put it this way. It wasn't that I didn't expect him to be compassionate. I knew that he would be. He's the kindest of them all. That's why he'd been patient and put up with me. He did far more than that. He was more than supportive of me, and his community on all sides came forward with overwhelming support and love. I remember listening, reading those comments, and getting very emotional, partly because of who I am as a person, and partly because I don't know what I did to deserve all this kindness. Also, I was extremely impressed because he didn't make a big deal about how I'm a queer person. Other content creators would have definitely made that a focus, but he never did. I sent a few messages back and forth with the channel creator expressing that I hoped that he was proud of each and every member of the community he'd built. All of this together gave me the strength to open up about everything else having to do with my story. I realized that I was writing it and that I had come so far as a person that I had grown in many, many positive ways, cutting out the toxicity and welcoming love, kindness, and generally good people. After finishing the last part of the story, I appended 2 letters, forgiving the toxic person not for the things she had done to my loved ones, but for what she had done to me. I do this for 2 reasons. 1, it's not my place to forgive people on others' behalfs. That's for them to do. And 2, even if I could forgive someone on behalf of someone else, I don't feel forgiving for those things. With the help of the channel creator and his community, I had finally let this go. There was more on my mind, but I wasn't ready to talk about that yet. Later, as I was listening to a podcast video of his and doing something or other in my apartment, I heard my story brought up by name. I just stopped what I was doing and looked at my computer for a second as though I expected something to happen. It was a passing mention, but still, I realized that my story had stuck with him to some degree. My story was brought up by name twice on the same channel within a fairly short time span. The first was in that podcast, and the second was in another story. I won't get into that out of respect. The reason for why I bring up the mentions is because I was concerned by them. I thought that, despite the help that getting this story out gave me, I had done something wrong by telling the story to everybody. To clarify, if something I said was weighing on someone's mind, I could be giving someone something negative in exchange for what? Closure for my pain? That's selfish. I don't want to be that person. Despite the doubts I was having, I eventually decided to download Discord and join this YouTuber's server. It was a little overwhelming at first, but eventually I was able to talk to everyone there with the same ease that I feel with other friends. Everyone, the creator included. I should also mention the very sweet lady that would join this creator in his streams and some of the videos. Hearing them interact is still always a joy. As I like to say, elle est très la belle et adorable. I probably said that wrong. So when I first joined the Discord voice calls and got to hear from the content creator himself about how wonderful and amazing a person she is, I was not surprised in the slightest. However, during one of those calls, early into my joining the server more actively, there was a rare occurrence of a heated argument between two people. The creator made it clear right away that this is absolutely not the kind of thing that is to happen on his server. During this argument, I kind of started panicking. What was going on around me barely registered in my head, and I was hyperventilating without realizing it. I was on the sofa in my living room, and I remember grabbing one of the pillows to hug it as soon as I got a little clarity. One of the people in the call, someone else who had become a very dear friend to me, had helped me calm down and bring me back to reality. At which point I left the call because I needed time. I'd been too much of a burden already. I didn't expect this to happen, and I hated myself for breaking down like that. I ran to my closet and hid inside of it. As I was pondering leaving the server, my favorite YouTuber sent me a message to ask if I was okay and if I wanted to talk. He actually left the public call to talk to me, saying that he knew that I felt it was right to remove myself from the situation, but that I shouldn't have to remove myself from the situation. Again, this is not the kind of thing that goes on in this server, and it's not okay that I had to feel terrible because of it. He genuinely doesn't put up with that kind of stuff. Some people say they don't and let things slide, but he really doesn't, and it shows. I had a panic attack and felt embarrassed. I was not being treated like someone's obligation or liability, and the people helping me through it were all dear friends. I saw someone who I'd been starstruck by, who read my story and went through all the trouble of helping me through the process of telling it, and one of those who reached out to me when I felt too vulnerable to reach out on my own as a friend. Every time I'd tell him how much of a good person he is or how good of a friend he's been, he'd always just say, well, I'm just me. And that's what makes him so wonderful. I hear other people say, while he wasn't around, how much they admire him and how he's touched their lives. I'd say sometimes, so we've been talking about you and how amazing you are, and I'd get the same response. Well, I'm just me. Yes, well, that's exactly what makes you so wonderful. I'd talk to people who would say that he's the family member that everyone wants, like an uncle to them or a brother, and that he's one of the kindest, most compassionate people. He was there when I was getting backlash and negative comments after I dared to start dating someone who had been a good friend to me for a long while. He was right there, and we'd been in a call for a little while when I'd been receiving these messages from someone who I thought was a friend, and he helped me feel better in the suddenness of the moment. By this time, I had a couple of nice passing conversations with the sweet lady I mentioned before, just as kind as I knew she would be. He's done more than I deserve to help me, and more than anything, I want to be able to return this favor by just being as good a friend. The least I could do was send him some coffee and a rainbow card. There's a local brand that's specific to the area I live in, and a small grocery store next to me that sells it, so I took pictures of all the different kinds that were in stock and while I was out shopping and sent them over so that he could pick the one that he liked the best. Then when he received the coffee, I sent a bunch of memes while he was fixing that refrigerator of his. All this time, I had something else weighing on me. I've been opening up more to my current girlfriend about what happened to my first girlfriend, how she passed on, and my current girlfriend is more than understanding, and I still love her. I'm incredibly lucky. That was when I decided to tell the drummer and bass story. It was catharsis more than anything. When I told the first part of the story, a funny part, my friend was so tickled by it that he wanted to see the screenshots from the post that I had referenced in the story. You can only imagine to my surprise when the sweet lady I mentioned before wanted to read as me over the stream. She sounded so excited to do this, and I was touched how she wanted to imitate me so perfectly that sounding like me was even a concern of hers. I think it's only fair that I continue with the aftermath of the drummer and bass story. After I was able to write it out, after the whole of it was read, it was only fair that I talked about it with my friend. He sounded angry, like I hoped he wouldn't be, but he was angry because of what happened and how much hurt drummer and bass had caused, not for any other reason. I talked a little about it privately, but eventually I told my friend that the circumstances that surrounded the death of my first girlfriend, what I'd been healing from to this day. We had a conversation branching off of that, but it felt like in explaining that in the time I was ready to, my friend had a better understanding of how talking about that time in my life was necessary. Again, as in the first story, I never went into detail about the context of that to anyone outside of some very close friends, and to an extent my parents. Speaking of parents, at one point I was getting some work done and I got a call from my father saying he was in town for a work retreat and his flight home had gotten delayed. So he was wondering if I wanted some dinner. Well, of course I said yes. I love hanging out with my parents, honestly, and my dad and I are very similar when it comes to taste in books, music, media, etc. He owns all the Beatles vinyls and albums. He loves the Dire Straits, Fleetwood Mac, the Rolling Stones. Took my family to the opera when we could go because he got a special discount through the opera board in the nearest big city. He and I had dinner and a long talk, and the flight home got so delayed that he ended up having to get a hotel room for the night. Originally, he'd been planning to go straight to the airport after dinner. He'd be due to get an early flight out the next day. That night, I received a phone call from my mother saying that my father was hospitalized, that something was broken, that my father was in pain. I called my father and I called the hospital he was admitted to and told my friends what was going on. Everyone was more than supportive, and some of my best friends and my girlfriend all offered their assistance. I come to find out that my dad had to be pulled off the road by a kind soul who stopped his cab to help him hold his bone in place while the ambulance was on its way. My dad had to have a full hip replacement. If that man hadn't pulled my father out of the road, things would have been so much worse. I might have lost him. On the day of the surgery, I was in the hospital with family and friends, and I received messages from my dear YouTube friend saying that he and his beautiful lady would love to talk to me later that night. Though the gesture may seem small, it was one more thing that helped me get through this experience, and I am more grateful than I can say. After my father's surgery and after that call, I had woken up later in the morning and had a breakdown. My friend was the first chat history that had come up when I opened my phone because I fell asleep on the call. Again. Also, most people who I usually turn to in moments of panic were asleep, as it was 5 a.m., and I wasn't about to wake someone up. So my dear friend helped me through that moment of panic and remained level-headed the entire time. I'm serious, he's been there for me so much in the time that we've been friends. For as often as I apologize, for as often as I feel like a burden, he and those of his friends who have become mine have been so loving and gracious and supportive. I'm not the only one who feels that way either. Moon, Sango, it's no secret that I'm talking about the two of you. If you only knew what a significant positive difference you have made on so many people. The difference comes from your videos and the way that you treat people whose stories you read, and in general, as how you are as people. You've built a family of people who love each other, spread positivity, and give support to those in need. Yes, I do mean both of you when I say this. While Moon was the first person I spoke to, and who I've spoken with the most, Sango has always been so comforting, understanding, and kind. Hearing of you both and from you both always makes every day better. I could not thank you enough for all that you do, not just for me, but for everyone in the community. Know that the love we all have for you, myself included, is unconditional and impossible to fully measure. Well, I'm gonna fucking cry. Oh my god. That was so sweet. Oh... That was incredible. Thank you so much, River. Wow. There are some comments, and I want to read them before I make too many comments of my own. So, this is from Reddit user JulesJJ4. You've exemplified what courtesy, kindness, friendship, but most importantly, genuine nature of character represent. Not many people appreciate kind spirits in this world the way you do. You've shown that Moon and Sango are truly diamonds in the rough when it comes to understanding and respecting others' compassion and dignity. You've also helped many people in tremendous ways yourself, River, and people like you. Sango and Moon are what makes this group strong and unified as it is. You're all tremendous individuals with equally tremendous hearts. This was perfect, and nothing needs to be changed. You guys. I swear. And one more from our friend Mango. Hey, Mango. Not just you, but this whole community has helped me discover some things about myself that I never thought I would discover. When I first found your channel and the suggested video while listening to other YouTubers, and I thought, why not? After binging many of the neckbeard videos, I decided to join the Discord, fully expecting maybe to meet some people, but never the actual content creator. I was so nervous that I hardly said 2 words. Then someone who would soon become a close friend of mine welcomed me with open arms and introduced me to so many amazing people. After posting my first Reddit story, I was so excited to see how much it amused you. After all, I expected you to glaze over it and never put it in a video. And it got me to think about doing YouTube again. So many worries in my life have been eased by your words and kind nature. When I clicked on every upload, I was either greeted with the soothing melody of the string ensemble that is your intro — I often forget that that is my intro — or the mechanical whirls that precede your arrival on every stream. Each sound made my excitement rise to hear an interesting tale of the laughter that you and Sango share, and it's a gift to us. However, I think one of my most favorite moments in being your friend was your willingness to entertain the children I babysit. I wish you could see the excitement in their eyes and the smiles in their faces when it's getting closer to bedtime and they beg to talk to the magical unicorn who lives on the moon and his wolf lady friend. In fact, you've both become a growing demand in the household, and the youngest girl recently asked if you guys are going to have a rainbow cake at your wedding. Aww. Sango, though we haven't talked as much, I still value you as a dear friend and a role model in some aspects. Your attitude and willingness to work to improve your craft is something that I strive to add to my life. My campers love you, and one recently got in touch with me to tell me how much she wanted to be an artist like you. I can't wait for you to start your own YouTube channel as well. I know you'll be great. I love you both and everyone in the moon herd. You guys, I swear to God, you're gonna make me cry. This is the sweetest thing, and I'm trying not to. I hit the microphone. Sorry, I'm trying not to. This is really, really kind. When I started this channel, all those, it's been what, 2-3 years, something like that. I don't even remember. It was out of trying to figure out something for myself, to try and put in perspective what was going on in my life. I was going through a bunch of really rough patches, and honestly, I've told this story before. I figured I was going to write a story on this neckbeard subreddit and nobody would care because I didn't think I was funny. I had written before, but I never wrote comedy. So I decided to try comedy, and I gave it my all. I really went into it doing the best I could and expected, nobody's going to care, but then it got like an overwhelming response, and eventually I ran out of neckbeard stories. I didn't have any left in my own repertoire to share. So someone in the comments, and I wish I could say who, but all those stories are locked away thanks to the subreddit getting shut down, said that I need to try to make my own podcast because they would like to hear more stories and things like that. And that's kind of where a lot of this came from. First I was just telling stories, and then I was still reading neckbeard stories, and I think it was probably Walter Fate who first got me started on the idea of actually reading neckbeard stories in general. But I started reading fan fiction first because I was listening to Bryn Daniel, and so I was like, I should share some of this terrible fan fiction that I read because I think it's funny. And the whole time I was still reading neckbeard videos. I was still reading neckbeard stories, rather. And then I saw a couple videos by Walter Fate, and I put kind of like 2 and 2 together, but being like, oh, hey, I could read those too. Because there's a bunch of these that I really like, and really the main reason that I read this stuff is because I want to share it with you guys. You guys are my friends, and I just kind of want to share the weird shit I find on the internet with my friends. The Discord server was another thing that I learned from Walter, because he had his own at the time. And I was like, well, I have one. Like, I have a Discord account. I hardly used it at the time, but I figured, what the hell? So I did a little swapping here, touching there, changed some things, and that's how it started. Honestly, like I said, all of the stories, all of the things so far were just because I wanted to share things with my friends. And eventually it got to a point where, like, I was reading stories, but not, like, I would just read it and then do the outro. But I had said something on a story about, I don't know, I gave my opinion on something, and for some reason that caught on. And that became like a demand. Like, everybody really wanted that to happen. You guys kept asking for me to give my own 2 cents at the end of a video, so I was like, yeah, I could do that. I don't have a problem with that, so I started doing it. And then with the Discord server, when it started to get more and more populated and filled with more and more of you guys, I just started getting to know you guys and talking to you, and it's like, you know, it's a bunch of friends. I was hanging out with friends, and I never wanted to, you know, I never wanted that to end. And as far as I know, it's not. But that's what it really came down to, was just like, I just met all you guys, wonderful, wonderful people, and you guys are fun and awesome, and you're great to talk to, and I'm just meeting cool new people every day, and this whole thing is just going on more and more of an adventure. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I am not at a stage right now where I could, like, go to conventions or something as someone who, like, oh, the convention will give you a panel, or, you know, you do a thing for a panel or whatever. I don't think I'm at that point, but I'm honestly excited to be at that point. Not because of any kind of, like, oh, then you'll be famous. Like, no, that doesn't. It's because I get to hang out with you guys, and I think that would be awesome. I wholeheartedly believe that panels will turn into massive Q&A events where it's just rambling nonsense and we do crazy things. Because that's just kind of how it goes. That's just kind of how all of this is. It's just free growing, and I try to be as, you know, as open about stuff as I can. I just try to be me. And I just hope that you guys always feel that you're comfortable, you know? That you can tell your own stories and be your true self and never have to worry about anything. So this is really touching. This is kind of amazing, and like I said, I'm trying not to cry. I love you guys so very much. That's why I say that at the end of every video. It's not just like, oh, it's a sign-off thing. It's like, no, I do. You guys are awesome, and I love you all. Being able to talk to you, being able to hang out with you guys is truly a blessing. I legitimately never thought I would make it this far. As of this video, just to date this a little, I have 2,100 subscribers, which still blows my fucking mind. That so many people would want to hear me talk about silly things like this. That this is, you know, this is a thing, that you guys are all here for this. It's amazing to me, and I have no words. I don't know, man. I'm so happy right now. This has definitely made my day. And I really hope that you guys are, I really hope you're all happy too. I really hope that everything that you do in your life and everything that happens is as wonderful and as amazing as it ever possibly could be. And so, you know, that's about it, really. I don't know what else to add. I love you guys so very, very much. And if you do have your own story, you can send it to r/Moonhorse Stories, and I will definitely see it, and I'll check over it. And, you know, now getting to the point where, like, I actually do have to look over things, because there's so many of you guys sending in such awesome stories that I have to, like, make decisions and all of this stuff. So, but I do love reading all of your stories, and they all mean a lot to me. They all mean so much that you want to share them with me. So thank you all for being a part of this, and thank you all for being here. And, you know, just if you really want to do the whole outro thing, there's a Patreon, there's a merch store. I'd appreciate it, but you don't have to. Just being here is more than enough. And I love you guys so very, very much. Never forget that. And I'll see you all in the next video, okay? You have an awesome whatever time of day it is. Goodbye.